Okay. Can you start a podcast with me, please? I need something to do.
Pastrnak sent it out in front of Malkin to save. They score! Elias Lindholm looks to the heavens.
Here's a chance. Patra right in on goal. He scores. Oh my! What a move by the rookie.
2-on-1. Pastrnak moving in with Marchand. Get it to it. Score!
The zone. Coyle dances in. Backhand score!
Lindholm right wing corner. Pastrnak is there. He scores! David Pastrnak wins it for Boston.
Welcome in, everyone, to Bruins Tape to Tape. I will be your host tonight, Maria from Watertown. We are recording on June 2nd, and this episode will be released on June 4th. We are going to start the first of a series of what we are going to call player profiles, and they're going to be very specific to our trade deadline acquisitions, 3 of which are coming up on restricted free agency status. But before we dive into that, I want to welcome in my co-host because I feel like I haven't seen you in quite some time, Caroline. Welcome in.
Hi, Maria. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
You.
I miss you too. That we've had a little bit of a lull,
Yep.
We're waiting on some Bruins news. In the meantime, we'll make a little bit of news or noise of our own until they break some news.
Indeed. It's hopefully a very big week for the Bruins, as you know, and as our regular listeners know. I'm a religious follower of 32 Thoughts to stay in the know about everything that's happening around the league. And per one of my favorite sources, Friedman, from this week's podcast, that the Bruins are down to their final 2 candidates, and Joe Sacco is not one of them. And there is some speculation that possibly he will end up in Toronto to take the place of Lambert, who went out to Seattle. So a little bit of shuffling around. Hopefully what we see is part of a trend of maybe some new coaches that are coming in, some fresh blood, because this league certainly needs it.
Well, that will be a big tell for me. And as Caroline just mentioned, the hope is that early this week means a variety of different things to different people. I'm thinking Wednesday at the latest, even though one might refer to that as midweek. But the big tell for me will be whether or not whoever is offered and accepts the job will have the flexibility and the ability to choose his or her own coaching staff. Because if that is not the case, I would have some concerns. There.
Yep.
I would have some concerns there. And I'm hoping that it's somebody who, and I understand about wanting to work with someone who brings familiarity to the organization, but don't we have enough of that already? And I'm referring to one of the candidates whose name has been thrown around, which is Marco Sturm. But again, we already have so many other former Bruins already in the house, so to speak. But I don't know, maybe they know better than I do.
Yep, exactly. So we shall see. There's also been some, I guess I'll call it a rumor, because of course, until it's been confirmed by the organization, we have to kind of make that assumption. But there's also been talk that Chris Kelly and the Bruins skating coach have both also been relieved of their duties.
Of their responsibilities. So, but again, it hasn't been officially confirmed.
Yes.
by anyone, but I think that confirmation will come when you name a head coach, and that head coach names a new coaching staff, right?
Here's hoping.
Addition by subtraction at this point in time. And, we do know that Zdeno Chara will be involved with the organization this season in some capacity. I also thought I read somewhere that perhaps Patrice Bergeron was going to have some involvement in the organization in the upcoming season. But we shall see. We shall see. In the meantime, not only are we waiting with bated breath for this announcement, we're waiting what seems to be an eternity for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals to start on Wednesday night. And I've seen it and I've heard it in many places on the social medias about this is crazy that the hockey season is extending this far at this point. It's crazy. And the players must be chomping at the bit to get going here.
Yes. Everything that I've seen online from reputable sources, indicates that players certainly would prefer not to wait this amount of time. And, I posed a question on social media, although apparently most folks didn't really understand my question. But I swear I remember watching, religiously hockey when I was in high school and in college, and this was 25 years ago. I do not remember there being this kind of a gap at all. But then again, when you're younger, your concept of time passing is very different. So I posted about that online and everyone's like, well, they have to wait because if there were games, I understand why they do it today. I get it. I understand. I don't remember it being like this pre-COVID.
This seems like an interminably long period of time. And the other thing is now you're going to be potentially conflicting with NBA games as well. But I will say, I am so glad that the broadcasts of these games is going to be on TNT and not the ESPN platform.
Thank God.
Just for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that the broadcasts and the intermission reports are head and shoulders so much better on TNT. So much better.
Yep. I don't have to listen to Ray Ferraro any longer, at least for the
I'm not a fan. And in case our viewers are wondering who I'm pulling for in the Stanley Cup.
Maria, what for our audio listeners? It looks like you're sporting a brand new T-shirt.
I got myself a little swag. I got myself a nice little Florida Panthers T-shirt with our friend Brad Marchand's name on the back. Because
did you at least use our code?
I did use our code.
All right.
I'm pulling for our boy.
So that's a great reminder that if you're going to be buying some swag, whether it's over the summer for any new players or Stanley Cup champions, make sure you click the link because we are a shop affiliate. So every purchase you make through our link helps support the pod.
So yes, I helped me help us. And one other piece of NHL news today is that a couple of awards were announced by the league.
That's right.
And Alexander Barkov for the Florida Panthers, center for the Florida Panthers, won the Selke. And also won what is called the King Clancy Award for his contributions to his sense of community. And when I started reading the story, I read that since 2019, he has been donating a set sum of money for each goal and a set sum of money for each assist. And to date, he has donated $420,000 to a local Children's Hospital
It's
to
amazing.
help with cancer research. So, we can say a lot of things about the Florida Panthers
And Sam Bennett.
and Sam Bennett, but Alexander Barkov is a class act. You can see why he's the captain of the team. You can see why he's won. He's won more than one Selke Trophy too during the course of his career. So, and now he may have the opportunity to hoist back-to-back Stanley Cups. Just to be back there. Not that I'm going to turn this into a Florida Panthers show. However, any team to get back there 3 times in a row says something about your team, your organization, your determination. So it's not an easy place, as we very well know. It is not an easy place to get to year after year after year. So we'll see whose year it is.
Well, and speaking of back-to-back champions, again, the final big piece of news in the PWHL is that Minnesota won back-to-back championships as well. So hat tip to those ladies.
Congratulations to those ladies too. They had a great season and a great showing for their league, and a league that should grow over time.
Absolutely.
So congrats.
So let's talk about these players. Although I think we need to take a quick break.
We're going to take an ad. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor at DraftKings, and then we'll dive right in.
All right, Bruins fans, if you're thinking about picking up some new gear, now's the time. I'm already planning to grab a fresh Pasternak jersey this fall. Who knows? Maybe he's rocking a new letter on the front. The NHL shop is running tons of season-ending and summer sales right now, including 20% off Fanatics gear. And here's the best part. When you shop through our link in the show notes, a portion of your purchases helps support this podcast. Same gear you'd find at the pro shop, but with way better perks. So stock up, save big, and help keep Bruins Tape to Tape rolling all year long.
The fastest game on the ice just hit another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup playoffs, where legends are made and every shift could turn the tide. And now, with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can take every slap shot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. New to betting on the Stanley Cup playoffs? You're in for an exciting time. Getting started is a breeze. Fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in your wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, simple, and puts you right in the middle of the action. Don't have a dog in the fight? It's easy to pick an anytime goal scorer who's going to score the game-winning goal in overtime. It's just that simple. Here's the kicker. New customers who bet just $5 will score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right. Turn $5 into a playoff payout. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. That's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Welcome back, everyone. We are going to start our trade deadline acquisition player profiles with Casey Mittelstadt. Casey Mittelstadt came to the Bruins as part of the trade of Charlie Coyle to the Colorado Avalanche. In addition to Casey Mittelstadt, the Bruins got back a player named Will Zellers, and a 2025 second round draft pick. Now, Casey came to the Bruins with some term left on his contract. I believe he has one more year left at $5.75 million, which I think is making perhaps some people bristle a little bit in terms of, let's face facts. You've got some serious roster rebuilding and roster reconstruction to do here. And, Casey Mittelstadt has been talked about as perhaps being a viable trade candidate if the Bruins wanted to seek something bigger and better in order to do this rebuild a little bit quicker than many of us may be anticipating. I don't think there's a lot of appetite for, a 3, 4, 5 year rebuild at this point. So, what do you do with a player of Casey Mittelstadt's stature? He's young. He's only 26 years old. He's a left-handed center. He was drafted 8th overall in the 2017 entry draft. He played 81 games last season. They weren't all with the Bruins because he had time with the Avalanche. 15 goals, 25 assists for a total of 40 points. But the stat that
your favorite stat.
I know I know he's a -29.
Yeah.
And the struggle was real for him during his games with the Bruins. I myself didn't see enough to excite me in the fact that, we brought this player in. Now, maybe it was more the fact that, you got a draft pick, you were able to move Charlie Coyle, but you're on the books for this $5.75 million salary for one more year. So, I don't know. And I know there were some, again, either Dawn or Cam might have made some comments about not having a shoot first mentality, but this is the same, management group that at one point said, well, we want quality over quantity. Now you're quick to point the finger at a player, and the said player seemed, a little bit confused by that comment. And, this might also speak to, hopefully when a new coach comes in, there'll be a new structure or an improved offensive structure put in that might benefit a young player like Casey Mittelstadt, because let's face fact, our young players have not benefited or grown in the Bruins' current structure. So, your thoughts on Casey?
Yeah, I think so. I know your favorite statistic is the plus minus, and certainly I like that one.
I know there are others, but that's kind of a scary. No. It's a little bit of a scary number.
Yeah. So certainly it's a statistic that I go to. One of the first ones that I go to, either, there are some fairly simple metrics out there that exist either in a game or for a player that I think can tell you a lot right away, right? That's what's great about them. So like folks who are part of our Discord group know that I have a reliance on always checking, shots on goal in a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shots on goal isn't like, the end all be all that can tell you everything about a game. But if you know how a team plays and you then see how they are doing with the shots on goal, it can often tell me right away what kind of game that team is having, right?
Yes. Yes.
For example, in the playoffs, watching the Florida Panthers, in game 5, I believe 5, was it, where they lost, or 6? I don't remember now, where they lost against Toronto. It may have been 6. Yeah, it was 6 because they lost
Yes,
it at
it was.
home.
Yes, they were at home. Yeah.
They were, this is a team that not just smothers defensively, but they are also very aggressive offensively. And so for that game, the fact that they were kind of behind the 8 ball on the shots on goal told me everything that confirmed everything that I was kind of experiencing watching the game. Like, okay, they're probably going to lose this. The same exact thing happened when they lost the one game to Carolina, right? So that's kind of like a quick and dirty stat metric. And plus minus also has a lot of value in that sense as well, because if I see a player independent of all other players have a minus 29, whoa, boy, what is wrong with that player? And then you look at the whole team. And when they're on a team like the Boston Bruins, where so many of those players this season were in the red for plus minus, I'm a little more forgiving of that horrible stat, because not all of the players, but a lot of players had really bad plus minus. So it tells me something a little different, that it was more of a global issue, if you will, as opposed to, him being the problem, right? I mean, look at Mason Lohrei, who we will talk about this summer, certainly in detail. My favorite stats to look at when I want to look a little bit more deeply into, okay, what does this player have to bring to the table that might not be quite so obvious? And my 2 favorite ones have been individual points percentage, so that's an IPP, and then player usage. So if you follow us on Substack, you've seen a couple of times I've talked about player usage and IPP. And essentially, when it comes to individual points percentage, it's looking at the team goals that occur when the player is on the ice. So if a player is on the ice for 10 team goals, and they had a hand in that, so they had at least a point, goal or assist on 6 of them, then you're looking at 60%. A high IPP, so you're looking at for offensive players, forwards of, a 70, 80% means that particular player is extremely heavily involved in, the offensive game. So David Pastrnak, for example, this past season, he had an 88.3 IPP, right?
Wow.
Duh. He was there, so he was our goal leader. So, interestingly enough, for Casey Mittelstadt, he had a 60. So that's not terrible. And, I don't know, obviously, the finer details and the nuances of what was happening on that Colorado team, because keep in mind, he played about 60 games in Colorado and then 20 games in Boston. And you have to remember, again, those 20 games can be not necessarily a good representation of who that player is. Obviously, there's a lot that happens at the trade deadline.
Right.
But one statistic that I like to look at that kind of evaluates both, what maybe the coaching staff thinks of a player, or, you can draw kind of your own conclusions, is the player usage. And so this particular statistic compares a player, their time on ice, essentially, most simply, to forwards on their team, defensemen on their team, forwards across the league, and defensemen across the league. So where do they land in terms of how frequently they're used on their actual team? So how are they contributing to the team itself? And then are they being used in a way similarly across other teams. You can look at by their age, by their position, by the divisions. You can kind of compare them to other players. And Casey Mittelstadt actually played a lot of tough minutes. He was used actually quite a bit. Comparing him to Charlie Coyle, if we're gonna say, okay, we sent Charlie Coyle packing, we replaced him with Casey Mittelstadt. Not really a bad trade-off, quite frankly, because Charlie Coyle, he played 83 games. He had 17 goals, 18 assists for 35 points. Again, you mentioned Casey Mittelstadt had 15 goals, 25 assists, 40 points. And when you're looking at their player usage, Charlie Coyle was in the 85th percentile of average time on ice compared to competitors forwards, and Casey Mittelstadt was in the 76th percentile. He's also a very defensive player because he was in the 52nd percentile compared to defensemen. So he's a center, as Charlie Coyle was. And so you would expect them to be a little bit more defensively minded. So I'll be really, really curious to see.
And he's younger.
He is younger.
And he is younger. So there's that. There's that. And, again, a full season might bring a bit more to the table from Casey.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't have a ton of time to learn the systems, to really get infused into the culture. He walked into a locker room as I would probably call him a younger veteran. I wouldn't necessarily call him a veteran player, but at 26, he's been in the league for a while. So he's walking into this vacuum that's very stressful. I would say I don't think that he should be he shouldn't be traded just to be traded. If he's going to be traded between now and July 1st, if he were put in a package deal for someone truly outstanding,
a hockey trade. We're talking about a hockey trade, right?
Right.
We're not talking about we've got to dump the salary because you took this player and you agreed to take this player that wanting to have this player come back to us in return for Charlie Coyle.
Yep. Right. He wasn't acquired as a rental. And if he wasn't already part of the team, I would say, yeah, sure. The Bruins, they have all these open spaces. They should take a flyer on him. So he might be worth taking a chance on, but he's also kind of on that cusp where it's like, don't flip him. You'd be stupid to just take him and flip him. But again, if you're trying to go after somebody massive, all right. I mean, okay, I'm not particularly attached because he's only been around for a hot second. So,
and when have the Bruins ever, gone after somebody? I mean, the last time they did that was Zdeno Chara. Let's face facts, okay? Yeah. So, and I'm not sure they're in a position right now to be able. They don't appear to have that kind of flexibility right now.
No.
Do they need to go out and, like, I don't want to say make a splash because sometimes teams make decisions like that to get a fan base, re-energized, reignited. Yeah. But does it work? At this point, I want them to focus on identifying
the right players.
Well, first you have to identify what kind of system you want to play, first and foremost. Right?
You need a coach. We need a coach.
Right. And you need a coach to help you do that, right? And then go out and identify the players that you believe are going to get you there. So yes, I'm in agreement with you. I've heard and read enough things. I mean, the fact that he was drafted 8th overall.
There's got to be something there.
There's got to be something there. Now, question, the $1 million question is the Boston Bruins organization the right organization to bring the best out of him? That's my concern for any players who are already established. You know, I mean, when I say established, like,
right. And, you know, it's
experienced, established players. And I'm not talking about guys in their late 30s, right?
No. Yeah. And, you know, we've seen Boston do that, but only with goaltenders. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who came in as this diamond in the rough and Boston was able to make him shine, kind of like with Linus Ullmark, or how Vegas did with Jack Eichel. You know, I mean, I could be wrong, and listeners certainly call me out on it, but I can't think of anyone who came to Boston from another team as a skater player, who all of a sudden became this phenom in the way that, like, Linus Ullmark was.
Yeah. I mean,
Not in this
I can
recent
think of
history.
examples like, you know, I think of like a guy like Jerome McGinley, but he was already an established star in this league, you know, Hall of Famer in the league. So you're right. I can't think of one either. So, but you know, I there should be enough upside there with the right system, the right coaching, and, you know, line mates too. Who, you know, the Bruins need to work towards putting these young players in the as best a possible scenario for them to be successful as you can. At this point, because of, you know, how tragically badly the season went last year, what have you got to lose at this point? Like, let's get these guys. If there is upside to young players like Casey Mittelstadt, then give them the resources, give them the tools, give them the guidance that they need from the beginning to bring the best out of them.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So I say, I mean, I don't want to give him a resounding 2 thumbs up, but yeah, he's worth. I am intrigued enough that I would like to see.
We need a bigger sample size.
We need for him. Definitely. You know,
we need, and you know what? We're likely going to get it because, again, he has one more year on his deal at nearly $6 million, 5.75. So even though the cap is going up,
yes,
I'm not sure that, you know, there'll be teams with an appetite to want to take that on, unless it's,
assuming Elias Lindholm continues whatever, you know, the momentum that he had coming out of the end of the Bruins season and the World Championship tournament that he had, which was extremely positive. If he can keep that going and he can bring that energy and effort and into the next season, I could easily see Casey Mittelstadt being successful as 3C. Again, Charlie Coyle replacement. Fine. I think he would be fine. So that's my evaluation.
That's our take. I think we're in agreement. I think we're in agreement on this particular player. So, you know, again, let's hope that start with a new coach, a new coaching staff, and, you know, a different approach to the Bruins.
And he was better across the board than Trent Frederick. So, friends of the pod.
Okay, just an aside. We cannot, as much as I wouldn't mind seeing Connor McDavid hoist a Stanley Cup. Trent Frederick has no business.
No
business going near that trophy. I'm sorry.
No.
And on that note,
Indeed.
And
As
that
always, make sure you like and
rate,
subscribe.
review. Yep.
Absolutely. Follow us on all the social platforms. Subscribe to us on Substack. And any final things to say, Maria?
Go Panthers.
Go Bees!